Eric Metaxas. Eric, thanks for coming on. Good to see you. I mean, I've known about you. You've known about me. I want to be able to kind of chat a little bit together. But, I mean, you really, I know you've written a lot of stuff, and we can talk about a lot of different directions. But I kind of want to, let's do a deep dive. You know, you did the book on Bonhoeffer and Luther and all these guys that, you know, it's my wheelhouse. I love talking about that. But let's compare what's going on today in our society with politics and, you know, HR1, HR5, and people doing crazy stuff and gender and all that, compared to what it was like then.
Unfortunately, the parallel with Bonhoeffer is extremely striking. Even when I was writing the book in 2008, without knowing what I was getting into, I began seeing these disturbing parallels. Even as I was writing it all the way back then, I thought I can kind of smell prophetically where we're drifting. We're drifting in this direction. And so in retrospect, I firmly believe the Lord called me and created me to write that book, the Bonhoeffer book, for his purposes today. In other words, I think that many people in the church have read it, and many are still reading it, and they can see, when you read that story, you can see how this works, how this happens. And of course, it's a cautionary tale because it's an example of a prophetic voice, Bonhoeffer, speaking to the people of God, calling them to be the people of God, which is what the prophets always do. And usually the people of God says, no, we'll take a pass on that. We don't want to be the people of God. And then time passes and they say, wasn't Isaiah great? Wasn't Jeremiah? They were so great. They were so prophetic. Oh, but we stoned them. We didn't listen to them at the time. The church did not listen to Bonhoeffer. If they had listened to Bonhoeffer, they would not have drifted in that direction. They had no idea. People never seem to know where these things go. Bonhoeffer had a prophetic sense, you know, not prophetic in the sense that we might use, but a deep prophetic sense of where things were going, and was trying to warn people that if you read God's word, you cannot go and take a step along with the National Socialist program. No one knew this is leading to the death camps. Even Bonhoeffer didn't know that. In the early 30s, Bonhoeffer could sort of intuit that's where this is going. We need to stop. The church needs to be a bulwark against this, needs to speak against this. And of course, people had all kinds of reasons not to do that. Just like today, some on the left in the church and some on the right in the church, they will have different reasons not to stand against it, right? So people on the right would say, well, you know what? I'm about evangelism and worshiping Jesus. I don't want to get involved in that political stuff. Well, good for you. So you don't care about the Jews going to the boxcars, to Treblinka, to their deaths. You don't care about them. You just want to preach your little fake gospel, because what kind of a gospel do you have if you don't care that God's children are going to their deaths? There has been a chilling effect that we've been feeling. It's the woke culture. COVID exacerbated this dynamic where people say, you can't talk about that. Don't talk about that. When people tell you not to talk about something, a red flag should go up. And you should say, I will never not talk about something. I will talk about election fraud. Because, by the way, if there was no election fraud, if the vaccine is good, then you wouldn't be afraid of a conversation.
That's right.
So what we're seeing, though, is that sinful people, because you and I are sinners, right? Apart from the grace of God, we're going to do these little things so that we don't get canceled, so that we don't get in trouble, so that people don't single us out. We make these teeny compromises. That's what Germans did. But the Bonhoeffer story shows you what happens if these good Christian people make this little compromise and this little compromise. He says, you better speak up now. And they say, well, not yet, not yet. Not yet, and then suddenly, boom, now you can't speak up.
Right.
So the question is, will the American church wake up and see what's happening and be willing to pay the price? But we have a lot of people that they're counting the costs and they're saying, well, I don't want to pay that price. I'd rather just keep drifting along. So it's easy for us to see that the Germans were guilty in that, but we need to see ourselves in it. We need to see that if I am all too willing to kind of drink the Kool-Aid and to keep my head down because I don't want to be singled out, you have become part of the problem. And I've been speaking in a lot of places, not just churches, saying to people, folks, if somebody in America tells you don't talk about that and you go along with that, you are the problem.
I mean, history says that we've stepped over into an era of a revival. You're hearing that out there, a great awakening. Do you agree with that, or do you think we're not at that place?
I don't know. I mean, I believe that that's true. I can't say that I know that. I think that, a lot of prophetic voices have said that, and I would like to believe that. I frankly don't know that there's any way out of this death spiral apart from revival. In other words, I know it's kind of like saying, hey, how's Jesus going to get out of that? He's nailed to the cross and he's dying and then he dies. How's he going to get out of that? Well, there's no natural way to get out of that.
That's true.
You're dead, you're dead, you're dead. People don't rise from the dead unless there's a supernatural miracle of God. And I think that we're at a moment in American history where we really need a supernatural miracle or series of miracles from the Lord. So if God does rescue us from this, and I do think revival is the only way, we will know where our help came from.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so Eric Metaxas, you're gonna see more of him on Flashpoint. I got a lot of other questions, but I want to encourage you, get the book Bonhoeffer. Maybe you don't know that story. It is chilling when you read the story and you see what happened and how it applies today. Thanks, Eric.
God bless you.
Thank you. Eric Metaxas, what a great story. He's got a great stuff. If you haven't got his book, Bonhoeffer, I would highly recommend you go get it, because most of us didn't know that story, and you need to go back and read it, because it's what you see played out then is happening today. And so that's why you need to get there and stand up. Don't be among those that's laid down and didn't do something, right?